Welcome to Reaching New Heights with Troy Bell, the city manager, City of Muskegon Heights. Thank you so much to everybody for logging on, clicking on, for listening in on the show today. Again, you've tuned in to Reaching New Heights, where you get to know what you need to know so you'll be in the know. So you'll notice the new look of these, I guess you'll call them spectacles, glasses. So I will be putting them on and taking them off as we broadcast remotely here for this show, and to make sure that I am connected into this whole on-screen persona, so to speak. But again, let me say thank you to the mayor and to the council for the opportunity to serve in this position. Thank you to the community, the members of the community, for allowing me the honor of being a part of this wonderful community that we call Muskegon Heights, the city of friendly people. So we've got a great show today. We will have Senator Bumstead joining us here shortly, but I want to give you a quick update. We are having the city's holiday party this Thursday from 6 to 10 p.m. For city staff, employees, and vendors. Just a way for, I said city staff, employees, and vendors, and council, a way for us to say thank you, express our thank you as part of this holiday party to our employees. So I'm excited about that. We've done it over the last 3 years in varying degrees, working around COVID, working around some of the issues associated with the pandemic. But we've never done something all-encompassing for all employees at one time. It was a pocket of employees here, staff here, leadership team here. But now we're bringing everybody together as part of this. Thank you to the staff and employees of the city, as well as to those that lead us every day on our council, on our wonderful council. And so we're excited for that. This is an event that the leadership team is sponsoring on behalf of the city. So again, excited about that. So far, we have about 35 RSVPs. We expect that number is going to go up between now and Thursday. Great food, great entertainment, and thanks to those people who are contributing. I'll go into more detail about that at the event, but the music is being donated. The food is going to be outstanding. And so we want to make sure that we recognize everybody that is contributing to this event at the event. So heads up on that. Many things that we should be aware of from the city standpoint. Things that happened. We had a council meeting this past Monday, and so you need to be aware of that. I believe that we have a special session coming up soon, and as soon as the clerk publishes that and informs all council people, I will be able to share with you the special session. But stay tuned. Look on our website. It'll be posted on the front doors, all the doors of City Hall. It requires an 18-hour advance notice. It does not require a specific agenda, but I will tell you that at our last meeting, we had a presentation from Barbara Marzak from Prine and Newhoff. Thank you so much for coming in, Ms. Marzak, to talk about the engineering contract. And that engineering contract will have to be approved at a subsequent meeting. But the contract was is for the design work on the $8 million grant that we have been awarded by Eagle. That's correct. And that work is part of the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund. We're happy for this particular, and I call it a grant because it comes through to us through the Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund. But that loan has 100% forgiveness. And because it's 100% forgiveness, we call it a grant. And so that's an $8 million figure. And that figure is based on what the engineering firm Prine and Newhoff and I, as the city manager, projected to Eagle almost a year ago and said, hey, we know that this work needs to be done. And we want it to be on your radar as work that we're looking for assistance and funding. We did not know that we were going to get 100% funding. We didn't know that it was going to be 100% forgiveness. So thanks to the legislature, thanks to the governor for making that happen. But that is an $8 million, like I said, grant. And part of that work is going to require that $8 million grant is going to require the engineering design, which is covered by that grant. So that presentation took place. If you wanted to know about what projects were incorporated in that, that will be posted on our website. You can also contact Prine and Newhoff, and they can give you additional details about that if you'd like to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. But it's all good things. It means the progress of the city of Muskegon Heights. We will be moving forward on replacing underground pipe, and we will also be moving forward on lead service line replacements. Now, remember, the state has required that we replace 100% of the lead service lines in Muskegon Heights. We estimate between 3,800 and 4,200 lead service lines in the city of Muskegon Heights, and they gave us 20 years to replace it. So that is 5%, a requirement of 5% per year to get to 100% in 20 years. The current work that we have underway includes 540 lead service line replacements. We've already replaced 40 of those in the fall of this year, and hopefully in the spring of next year we'll see the rest of that 500 get done. In addition to that 540, which puts us way ahead of that 5% requirement that the state has mandated, we will have, as part of that $8 million, almost 600 more lead service line replacements, which again will put us even further ahead of the timeline that the state gave us. We are happy that the state is, even though this is an unfunded mandate to replace these lines, the state is making available thus far the funding to be able to affect that replacement of lead service lines. And so again, we're going to be way ahead of schedule. Thanks to Prine and Newhoff for working with us and putting that on the radar so far in advance. And now we are in conversations with Prine and Newhoff about the 2024, 2025 needs of the city and what that looks like and what projects that we can put together for that to go out for grant money even 2 to 3 years in advance. And so realize that what we're doing today is for 2 to 3 years down the road. But if we don't do it today, if we get caught napping on that, then we won't get the grant funds that are associated with it. You have to do the groundwork today. You have to invest in the work today. You have to put it on the radar for the state so that you can get that 2 to 3 years down the line. And I know a lot of folks were impatient about this work that we are underway now, getting started, because it took almost 1.5 years. And maybe it was my fault, my responsibility, that I should have said, yay, we got $7 million worth of funding, of which $5 million was a grant. And that's great, but it's going to take 1.5 years before the actual work starts. And so that's the case. The work has started on that $7 million. It's underway. We've got work that's going to be underway next year as a result of the work that was done last year, the design work. And we are in the process of getting the projects ready for 2024, 2025. So please know that that's happening, and please be patient with us as that work won't get underway for a while. But also know that we have work that is happening now and is underway now, with a brief respite of winter, but we'll be right back at it in the spring. The demolition work, we had Mr. Rohn on here at our last meeting to talk about the demolition work at Peck and Sherman. So that's great. The demolition is complete now. They're in the stage of testing the soil, removing the bad soil, replacing it with good soil. Once all the remediation of contamination is done, then they will begin construction. And so I'm telling you that now, even though this wasn't part of the agenda for last Monday's meeting, but I'm taking a little side road to make sure that everybody knows, be patient, because you won't see a building coming out of the ground for a little bit now, because we have to clean up the contamination. And oh, by the way, we got $1 million from Eagle in order to do that work. So another instance of grant money coming into Muskegon Heights to do the things that we know need to be done. And so that work is underway. Although it's slow, it's not necessarily visible all the time, but it is underway. Something else that was on the agenda for last Monday's meeting was the approval of the budget. And I am sad to say that, unfortunately, we did not get an approval of the budget. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the show when Senator Bumstead is able to join us. And I believe we're also going to be joined by one of his people, Miss Laudermill. So we'll talk more about that. But in the agenda for last week's meeting, that's pretty much the items that were on there. I had an opportunity, and thank you to the residents who grin and bared with us, who hung in there to the last hour. I mean, the meeting started at 5:30. I don't think we got out of there until 10:30, 11 o'clock. But I got an opportunity to share with the public and with council the 2023 projected budget. The statutes and charter and ordinances require that the city manager prepare a budget and present that budget to the council, and that budget has to be a balanced budget. And so we presented what we, and I say we, because I believe for the first time we are, I say the first time, but we did it last year. We did it even more this year, where the whole leadership team was part of putting together the budget. And so it wasn't just myself, wasn't the city manager saying, here's what we are going to earn and here's what we're going to spend. Every department head was part of putting together this budget. And it was a long process. Some of the department heads had to sit there and listen to what other department heads had to say and what they wanted in their budget. But it was a learning process, I think, for everybody to understand, well, police needs this and fire needs that. And it's good for fire to hear what police is doing and police to hear what doing, and fire to hear what inspections is doing, and inspections vice versa. So all of that came together so that we can begin to standardize exactly what we're doing across the organization. You don't want, when it comes to the budget, the inspections department doing one thing, the finance department doing an entirely different thing with the same types of line items. And so we are in the process of standardizing that stuff across the organization. And that begins with the leadership team coming together. That begins with all of us working through the budget together. And that's what happened. And so we had the leadership team there to present the budget, as well as, my responsibility as city manager overall to present the budget. And we are projecting with the deficit elimination plan due to the 2020 audit, which put us in a deficit. Council approved a deficit elimination plan that allowed us to utilize portions of the American Rescue Plan money and the lost revenues as a result of the pandemic in order to shore up our budget. And so based on that, we are projecting a positive budget for 2023. And that left us approximately $3.3 million of American Rescue Plan money for the council to then utilize in the upcoming 2 to 3 years for various projects. And so I've already talked about previous shows where the council identified the priorities and what those categories were and how much they were allocating to that. And if you take a look at the city manager's monthly report, it outlines exactly on one page what was allocated based on the what portions of the American Rescue Plan were allocated based on the deficit elimination plan, how much was left, and how council decided to allocate those deficit elimination plan funds. So that is all said and done. All right. That was the budget for Monday evening's meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to come back and work with that because it wasn't approved. But I want to go ahead and refer you. I did just mention it. The city manager's report. And there were a number of things that were listed on that report. I mean, if you look at the agenda of key projects under the manager's report, there's some, I'm just looking at it now, some 25 projects that are currently underway as part of that report. It also identifies key former projects and gives you a status on the things that we completed and what's pending and what's underway as part of that. It refers to the vision plan update because we're operating our redevelopment ready certification and our vision plan under what was approved by the community of what the community wants to see in the next 5 to 10 years as part of that vision plan. And that also incorporates the work that is designed and designated down at Mona Lake Park as part of the DDA. It also talks about past key meetings and phone calls. So you can take a look at that and see the people that I've met with and some of the phone calls. That's not all of them, but it is some of the key ones so that everyone, including the community as well as the council, is aware of what that entails. Particular information requests are there and what the status of those are, where we are with the website, property tax foreclosure project, which was an important nuance and change in the way the city does business with foreclosures, tax foreclosures. It talks about the new water policy deployment where we are limiting the balance of water accounts to $500, and any renters that want to continue need to look at process of putting in place a deposit because we want to make sure that any delinquent accounts past 30 days face a shutoff. That no account exceeds $500 in delinquency, that if you do get a shutoff, you pay a fee in order to turn on, and that fee is escalating. If month after month after month you get a shutoff and a turn on, then we know that you're going to get an escalating fee associated with that. If the water people show up at your house to do water work and you're not there, please be aware that you're going to get a no-show fee for that. These are all parts of how we make sure that we're funding our water filtration system. Some of the reasons why the revenues have not reached expectations because we're doing a lot of work that we're not charging for. And so in order to keep our water filtration plant, and this is so important because we have to figure out a way to sustain our water filtration plant going forward. And so we have to make sure that we are charging the fees associated with the work that's being done. It's not free work, it all costs. And so that's part of the discussion there. Maintenance issues, we're in the throes of purchasing a fire truck, and that's an important topic of consideration. And so we know we need a fire truck. We know that we can't continue to operate with just one fire truck when we had 3. We know that 2 of the 3 fire trucks are over 20 years old. The third one is about 11 years old. We've been fortunate in the past years to be able to purchase all of our fire apparatuses using grant money. Unfortunately, we can't depend on that all the time. We've got a grant application in, but we know we need to move now to replace a fire truck. And that has been presented before. But now I believe council is ready to pull the trigger on that because we're throwing good money after bad and fixing up our fire engines. Our fire apparatuses are costing us money. And every time they go down, we have to fix them, and that's money. If we have a new one, we don't have to worry about the minor maintenance costs in the beginning. But as they get older, the maintenance costs go up, just like any car or vehicle that we have. personally. As it gets older in age, number one, you can't take it in for routine maintenance that's covered by the warranty. That's gone. Then you got to cover everything, all the maintenance out of your pocket. And as it gets older, the maintenance goes up. If it's not the fenders, it's not the engine, it's not um, the suspension or the drivetrain. All of those things are parts of our vehicles that we know are increased costs. Well, the same kinds of things are happening with the trucks. The more hours that we put on it, the more we drive them, the more the maintenance costs go up. If we get newer ones, we can put that money that we would have spent on maintenance and repairs into new trucks and new devices. So you should see that coming here, down the pipe here pretty soon. We're still pushing on trying to get the Citizens Academy together because I know it's important for us to get the citizens in to be able to see how government works, to be able to spend time with each of the departments and get a presentation of each of the departments, to understand where revenues come from and why we spend money, and to be able to see that when you look at revenues and expenditures, really the only decision that's left to us is either we cut employees in order to reduce expenses, or we increase revenues and we build. We build to increase revenues. We bring in new industry. Those are the only two things that we can do. But you won't see that unless you come and participate as part of the Citizens Academy. And so the last thing you'll see on there is the city manager's updates, is updates on grants and grant opportunities, new grants that we're going after. There is a reference to the renewal cannabis licenses and the funding associated with that. Parking management, which is a thing that is going to be facing us in the new year. We're going to begin to charge for parking. Citizens will be free down at the lake, but anybody else that's not a citizen, you're going to pay for parking. Very similar to Pure Marquette. And then elsewhere throughout the community, parking is going to be an issue. And so we're looking at how we can charge overnight, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. for parking in the downtown areas and provide a discount for residents for that. I think I covered just about everything there. So take a look at the manager's report that was included. Also included were the reports from the other departments, but the manager's report kind of gives you an overview of everything. Great to see that the inspections department is going up in revenue, more inspections, more permits. So that's only going to increase. We've added new staff there, which has been good. So they've been able to get out and issue some more citations, and those citations represent a change in behavior. Things that have gone unnoticed and unaddressed for many years are now being addressed. And so that's all part of reaching new heights. It's all part of raising the bar so that we can be better, do better, and look better. So with that, I'm going to pause and I'm going to ask if Senator Bumstead can join us for the show. And I'm doing this remotely, so I don't have the controls. There's one person from HERCO looking for Senator Bumstead. Okay, so we don't have him as of yet. But in the interim, we have, I think, a vehicle shot here from HERCO. Do you know if Senator Bumstead is going to be joining us here pretty soon?
Yes, he is. We're both on the road, and I know he was trying to tap in. So maybe what I need to do is see if he's having some technical difficulties, but we're both traveling, and I know he said he was trying to get where he could sign in.
Got you. Well, I got a note here that said that Senator Bumstead is on, so I'm guessing that note was not accurate or correct. If you could make sure that he checks his personal email, then I think that's where the link was sent. Is that right? Did we send a link to Senator Bumstead's personal email? Okay. So hopefully he will be getting that. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for him to join, there's a couple other things that I will touch on. Sorry for the delay. I did not include when I was talking about the manager's update, and it wasn't included on the manager's update, but some of the reforms that we are undertaking overall at City Hall. So with the presence of Maynard, Maynard is a CPA firm that has been brought in part due to a $150,000 grant from the Treasury Office that we were happy to secure. They were brought in to help shore up our finance department. And over the last year and a year or so of their contract in place, they have helped us with respect to they. I got a call here coming in from Senator Bumstead, but it's going to be kind of hard for me to answer it since I'm here on the radio. But let me see if I can get him on the speaker. Hello, Senator Bumstead.
Hey, I can hear you very well.
Okay, I'm not sure our listeners can. Were you able to get a link from the producer?
I was, and for some reason it's not letting me on the volume. So let's just try this the best we
can. Let's see. Let's see from our listeners. Are you able to hear Senator Bumstead? I'm looking for comments from our listeners. We've got them on speaker here. Anybody from the audience, are you able to hear Senator Bumstead?
Hello, everyone.
Okay, I got a response from the city clerk, Jennifer Ross, that we can hear him. Mary Bird says I hear him, so you're in.
Good.
All right. Wow, the beauty and challenges associated with the virtual world.
Let's face it, we're all too old for this. You need 5-year-olds to figure all this stuff out.
Tell me about it. I am way too old, but we're gonna hang in there. But thank you so much for navigating, overcoming the challenges of technology to join the show. So welcome to the show, Senator Bumstead.
Welcome.
Thank you. So
I hear a lot of good things happening there in the Heights.
Yes, sir. I mean, if I can't say so myself, I do want to say so. And it's if I had to put my finger on it, I would say a lot of folks do not realize how many great things were already going on in Muskegon Heights before I was even thought of. What I've tried to do since coming on board is just try to focus the attention on it, focus the effort. And the visioning plan is a huge part of that. I think the floods opened up as soon as we were able to get a vision plan on paper that incorporated the many good things that the community was doing. And now it's on paper, which I think is what makes the difference.
Well, once you have a plan in place, now you know where to go for the different grants that are available at the state and federal level. There's so many out there.
Right.
If you don't spend a lot of time finding where they're at, working with your legislators at the state and federal level, you won't get them. And so it's really important that we stay working together, trying to figure out where these dollars are, because there's different pots of dollars, and sometimes there's more dollars in certain pots than others, and we just got to make sure. Because if we don't ask for it and receive it, somebody else is getting it. So we need to make sure that we are, it's taxpayer dollars. We spend them in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't get it unless you ask for it. So we just got to make sure we all work together, making sure these pots of money have your name on them.
And you touched on something that's very important. There have always been great things going on in Muskegon Heights, and I'm testimony to that. Coming in from the outside, not knowing from my from my elbow, and just seeing the many wonderful people of the community. But what is challenging for us many times in comparison to other communities is the paperwork associated with applying for the grants to support these activities. The paperwork associated with bringing attention to and focusing the attention on these activities.
Yeah, you can use almost all cities of your size almost have a full-time grant writer. And a lot of these grants, you can pay for their wages out of the grant application when you receive those grants. So you just got to make sure you ask. It takes a lot of time and people to understand. It might be a year, it might be 6 months. You just never know.
Mm-hmm.
The you qualify or don't qualify, and it does take a lot of time.
Yes, and how much I would love to be able to have a grant writer at the disposal of the city that's working full time or at least even part time on going after these grants. And like Ms. Bird said, you're absolutely right, in conjunction with our master plan, because we have a master plan. We have a Parks and Rec plan. We have a DDA plan. We have all these plans, and we have the opportunity now that we have this vision plan to bring it all together to go after the funding. But how hard is it to be able to go after these grants and to create change when you have nothing to work with? And so I would love if we could have a grant writer. And that's one of the things American Rescue Plan money makes sense, because
well, this grant writer does a really good job, and there's certain parts of the state, certain cities, counties, they have grant writers that, I mean, they literally bring in millions and millions of dollars in projects every year.
That's right.
May it be park dollars or MDOT dollars or redevelopment dollars. You don't get it unless you ask. And if somebody could be full time in your city to just figuring it all out, it would take a while to figure it out, because a lot of these programs are one time. Some of them are ongoing. If they get it or not, and those are the things the grant writer would have to keep abreast of, and working with the legislature. Hey, what is funded this year? What's funded next year? What's funded long term? And you just never know from year to year. That's
true. Well, from your vantage point, your perspective as being a member of the legislature, and I think I heard you mention the other day, it's been 55, 60 years that you've been in the legislature?
Yep, I've been in the Senate 4 years, and before that, it's not funny.
You caught that.
The House from 2010 to 16. So, it just changes from year to year, what dollars are available, what dollars the state receives from the federal government to run certain programs and grants. So a lot of it is federal flow-through dollars, but right now there's a lot of money at the state level coming in from the federal government, and it looks like over the next year and a half there could be even more. We just got to be prepared and ready to go to ask for those dollars.
Right. Well, again, thank you for tuning in every Wednesday at 2:00 for this show. Thank you for joining the show. So I'm curious. I know you had a tough election process. I know there was a redistricting associated with it, and you were able to prevail. And so the question that, and I hate to catch you off guard with this before we talk about our budget, but the question that our listeners are going to ask is, what do you think you can do in concert with all the services, all the folks that are currently in office now to bring to Muskegon Heights?
Well, number one, really the key issue and how it helps the district is I have really good staff with a lot of experience, very connected with the different departments and where these dollars are available. Our office made it a priority over the years to work very closely with the directors of each department. And when you have that working relationship, it's a lot easier to find out, and they're more willing to work with you and talk to you where these dollars are available. So it's really about all the relationships you develop over the years in Lansing, regardless if it was a Governor Snyder or a Governor Whitmer. It really doesn't matter. You still have to make those connections and those relationships.
Right. And I'll say, people have asked me, and this is just the facts of the matter. I appreciate that over the last 2.5 years that I've been here, just about every single week, either you or somebody from your office contacts myself or somebody on my staff or the mayor's office to say, hey, we're here, what's going on, and what do you need? And that's a testimony to your staff and also to yourself, and the importance that you place on keeping that line of contact and communications open with the various communities.
Yeah, no, that's really staff work, and like I say, I'm very proud of the work we do, because with 5 counties now, each area of the district has different wants and different needs. You just got to make sure you pay attention to everybody, because there's, like I say, there's different pots of money throughout the district.
Right.
We're your voice in Lansing, and that's, unfortunately, we have really good staff to help people through that process.
Well, one of the things that we've put on your desk, and that many of our citizens are going to be holding the legislature in general accountable for, is that $8 million ask for Broadway.
You bet.
Mm-hmm.
We will be working with the House and Senate and the governor's office. Hopefully we get that pushed through this year.
Yes. And so for those listeners that may not be aware or may not know, we have asked the legislature, and Senator Bumstead's office has been a sponsor of this request to provide us with the funding similar to what we did for Sherman Street, to pave all the way from Getty to Glade on Broadway Street. Not only to address some of the water and sewer issues that we know are underlying on that street, but also to address the paving and milling of the street, and more importantly, the streetscape in our downtown area, the facades in our downtown area, as part of the revitalization and replenishment of the downtown as a focus point based on the visioning plan. I mean, that's what the visioning plan included and talked about, the importance of bringing back the downtown area.
Yeah, and you look at that vacant land out along Broadway there on the west end.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to redevelop that, you got to have infrastructure to do that, and that's sewer, water,
right,
drains, and a road. The road's the cheap part. People need to understand putting the pavement down is the cheap part. The
yes.
best part's the subsurface, what you don't see.
The stuff underneath, exactly.
Correct.
Exactly.
Very expensive.
Well, we're going to be pushing for that and pushing you to push for that. So we will be very excited to have that come to life. And I know that I've got comments in here that are coming in. You might not be able to see it from your vantage point right now, but folks are asking about roads, and that's a key and critical issue about, in Muskegon Heights, our roads are terrible. I'm frustrated by it. Residents are frustrated by it. But I will tell you, for the first time in many, many years, we were successful in having the engineering firm Metro Consulting Associates put together a 10 and 20-year paving plan that identifies the worst roads and highlights them as key roads that need to be addressed, assuming that we can get the funding to do that. So if there's any way that funding can come in, and then you could be part of that, so that we can get that road plan off the ground, that would be fantastic.
Okay. No, we'll work on it together.
Sure. And I will say this, strategically and skillfully, what your office has helped with the infrastructure bill and what we're doing, you mentioned it yourself, the stuff underneath the roads is the real expensive stuff. And since we don't have money for roads yet, and we're hoping that that's going to change, with the new legislature, but since we don't have money for roads, we do, and we are getting money for pipes and lead service line. And so
lead line replacement is very, very critical. We put millions of dollars in there over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of money in that Senate Bill 565.
That's right, Senate Bill 565, right?
Yeah, you bet.
And so when we marry that replacement of pipes and lead service lines that comes out of funding from that Senate Bill 565, which I believe you authored, or you were one of the co-authors, at least, you marry that with the road work that has to be done. Now that we have a plan, we didn't have a plan before. Now that we have a plan, we can look at the road work, we can look at the plan, we can put the two on top of each other and say, okay, if we're going to do the road work underneath here, we may need to make sure that we account for getting the stuff above the pipes completed. So this stuff underground, under the road work, we're going to get that done based on 565, and then we're going to come back and do the road work on top of it, so we don't have to cut it twice. We'll do it one time.
Yeah, you want to, when you put your road in, you want to make sure everything underneath is done.
Right. Now, by golly, if I can get my hands on funding to do roads, right now we're doing, $1 million for about a half a mile. I mean, we did Delano Street. We've got Leahy that's under way now. Reynolds is next, and Maffitt. But that's $1 million for half a mile, and that's not even. Yeah, that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Yep. Well.
All right. Good.
So let's get to the nitty gritty here, and then we've got a few minutes left. So you've probably heard, and one of the reasons why I invited you on, I hear some wind in the background there, is because we've got a budget that we weren't successful in getting passed, and I think all the things that we talked about are important, but none of them are worth anything. They don't exist if we don't have a budget pass for 2023. Am I correct?
Yep. It's just like the state. We have to have our budget done by October, and to have it done even earlier is more the better, because that way it can actually, the departments can do their budgets as well. But it's really crucial at a state level, local level, county level, city, village level, township level have their budgets done, because otherwise you won't be able to apply for grants.
Right.
The matching grants and those types of things. So yeah, if you're applying for grants, you've got to have a budget done.
Exactly. So the 60 miles worth of road that exists in the little bitty town of Muskegon Heights. Some people look at it little bitty. I think it's huge, but they may be surprised to know that within the 4 square miles of Muskegon Heights, there's 60 miles worth of road. And we wouldn't be able to pave a lick of it if we don't have a budget that allows us to be able to make payments. And our fiscal year ends on December 31st, 2022. So what happens on January 1, 2023, if we don't have a document that says that this is what we think we're going to spend and what we're going to make for the next year?
Well, at the federal and state level, the government shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want that, because if something like that does happen, it's just a disaster trying to reopen things and get people back to work, and
right.
Making sure your contracts get done. And if you do have a contract for a road, is it still funded? You just without a budget, it's probably not going to be.
Right.
So budgets are critical to get done, balanced, and on time.
And I can't reiterate enough that a budget is a projection. It's a document. It's a piece of paper that says this is what we think is going to happen. Sometimes it's accurate. Most times it's not exactly accurate, because the reality of life says you're going to have, some changes.
Yeah, you could have overruns or leftover dollars from certain projects, but you can always amend a budget.
Right. And that's the key. A budget is a living document. Once you approve it, that can be changed and can be amended by the majority of your board.
Correct.
But if you don't have that original document projection in place, it's no dice. It's no game.
Yep. You need a starting point, especially when you're looking for matching dollars from the state or federal government. The sooner the better, because you don't want to see a program that you can't apply for. Right.
And nobody wants to provide grant funding if you don't have a budget.
Well, it won't happen.
Right.
Not gonna.
That's a minimum requirement. And you mentioned about cost overrides. Like, for instance, we might have within the fire department, we might have, with our current, aged infrastructure in our fire department, a repair that has to be done that we can't avoid, and we did not foresee it. And even if we did say, okay, we know we need to repair it, with inflation, it might come in to do that repair at double the price. And that might not have been something that was in the budget to begin with. And that could potentially be something that is a change. Am I
correct?
Yep.
Correct. You just never know.
You never know. That's right. Well, I wanted to make sure people heard it from other than just me, because I know people get tired of hearing me say over and over again, the budget, that's critical, that we get it right, that we get it approved, even if it is not, 100% accurate, but that at least to play the game that that the state has set out, we have to have a balanced budget approved.
Mm-hmm.
And so hearing it from you, hopefully hearing it from me, that word will go out saying, and if we're going to move forward, we don't want to, we're one of the few communities that hasn't had an emergency manager. Many of our fellow communities have. And if we want to continue as a community that doesn't have an emergency manager, the least thing that we have to have is a balanced budget. And with
Correct.
$3.3 million of American Rescue Plan in the bank, there's no reason why we should even have to worry about balancing our budget.
Yeah, and there's probably going to be more dollars down the road too. No guarantee for ARPA, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's another round of dollars.
Well, I'm gonna write that down as a guarantee from Senator Bumstead's office. That's what I heard. I didn't hear any of the other stuff. I heard guaranteed money, extra money coming down the pipe. No, but I get it.
Yeah.
Well,
all right, great.
Anything else you want to add before I let you go, Senator?
No, that's it. Just whatever we can do for you, just let us know and we'll work together.
Okay. Well, I certainly appreciate you coming in and telling us a little bit about the things that you're doing in the future of next year in your office and the importance of us approving our budget. So thank you for joining the show. I'll let you go and then continue with the wrap up here of some of the goings on.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Yep, bye.
Bye-bye. So thank you so much to the listeners who chimed in to let me know that you could hear Senator Bumstead. Because like I said, technology is a beast, and not knowing whether or not that made sense, as we tried to navigate the difficulties associated with, trying to run this thing remotely on the radio and on the air. That was cool. So I appreciate you and I appreciate you chiming in. And yes, we know that roads is a big issue. We can't get away from that. It's staring us in the face every day. But realize, looking at the engineering firm, and I'm not talking about just myself and my own expertise. The engineering firm said that it would cost us $110 million to do what we need to do to fix the roads in Muskegon Heights. And so that is a reality that we have to face. And if we can get our hands on the money, then in order to do it, what I ask everybody to do is rattle your saber at the state, because the state has the deep pockets to be able to do some of these things. The problem that we see ourselves facing now with the roads in Muskegon Heights are that we should never be in this situation. When I came aboard, the road should be in decent condition, and they would only be in decent condition if the last 20 to 30 years we had been maintaining them properly, setting aside the money to do what needed to be done as far as milling and paving and crack and seal and maintenance, cleaning the drains so that you don't have water accumulate. All that stuff would have saved us from being in the dire straits that we're in now. But where we are now is a $110 million prospect. So we have to figure out a way to get our hands on that $110 million in order to get our roads fixed. That's not even to sustain ourselves going forward. That's just to get us to where our head is above water. And so when we talk about sustainability, we're talking about how we need a tax base. Every community that operates in the state of Michigan and across the country operates based on the revenues that it receives based on its tax base. We tax so that we can spend, and we spend so that we can provide services. And right now, unfortunately, we don't have the tax base yet. Yeah, we have the land, and that's why I keep talking about build. We have over 1,000 vacant lots. If we build on those vacant lots, we create a tax base. Then improving and changing our roads becomes sustainable. Every year, we can do more work to be able to address the roads of Muskegon Heights. So today, we need to build. That's how, with the Headley Act, and everybody, if you have a chance to go online, look up the Headley Act and the limitations that creates in terms of us getting new revenue into the city of Muskegon Heights. but take a look at that. We only receive the money that we should for the value of the property of Muskegon Heights if existing property sells, changes hands, or new property is developed. Those are the two main factors. Now, obviously, if we have business that comes in and commerce that comes in, and we're working on that, and we have grants for that, be aware. We've been successful. I've been successful in going out getting grants to be able to address the corporate areas and industry and how we can bring that in. But within our own destiny now is all these vacant lots. And if we can build on these vacant lots, we can create tax revenue. And that's what's going to make this community sustainable going forward. And that's what everybody else is living off of. And it's a doggone shame that we don't have the funds in order to be sustainable moving forward. So that's what the focus is. The Headley Act is difficult for us because we can't get the money based on the existing value that we should, but that's the reality of it. We've got to build, 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 and that's going to bring our community back. And so the vacant lot program that the council approved allows us to sell that land, and that requirement, once they buy it, they have 3 years to build on it. If they don't build on it in 3 years, that property has to come back to us. They have already signed a quit claim deed to give that property back to us if they don't do what they need to do in that 3-year period, which is unheard of anywhere. Only in the city of Muskegon Heights do we have people lining up to buy property with these stipulations on it, because they know that if we begin to build, we will create a tax base. Now, some people will say, well, with the roads as bad as they are, nobody wants to buy a house in Muskegon Heights. So if you build a $200,000 to $150,000 house in Muskegon Heights, nobody will buy it because the roads are bad. Well, those people obviously haven't heard of gentrification, because if you look at anywhere where gentrification has occurred, the roads were bad and people still bought the land. They bought it cheap because the roads are bad, but they bought it cheap knowing that once they developed it, which is what we're asking for, that the roads were going to come. They bought it despite the roads because they knew the value for the future was there. Now, if they waited till the roads were fixed, the price would have been higher and they would have never bought it at a higher price. But the people that understand gentrification know there is value, value, value. And if you look at the fact that we're 40 minutes from the fastest growing city in Michigan, Grand Rapids, we're 5 minutes away from the lakeshore. We are the preeminent midtown with the values that we have for development here. And so we have to forget about telling people you won't pay this or buy that because of the roads, because people understand that outside of Muskegon Heights, and they understand the value of it. And before you know it, if you blink, they're going to swoop in and take advantage of the low rates and buy it up, and it'll be gone. And all of us will be sitting on the outside with their nose up against the window saying, how did we let this happen? So remember, if we can begin to build, we can sell these lots and build on these properties, we can bring back Muskegon Heights, and we can celebrate and take advantage of the culture that we have, the arts, the music, the food that everybody wants to take advantage of. People come to Muskegon Heights, they visit the lakeshore, and they say, what is they're flabbergasted at the rich culture that is here. And some folks already know that. That's why they come. But it's one of those kept secrets that we have to be mindful of, and we have to nurture it and make sure that it continues. But in order for us to get there, we got to take care of business today. And today's business is we need to approve the budget. We need to understand the game that the state has for us that says that you got to do two things. You got to have a balanced budget or else you're in default. And you got to be able to have an audit that says that you spent less money than you brought in. Those are the two things that will allow us to fend off anybody who wants to come in from the outside as an emergency manager. Those two things. Got to have a balanced budget. Now you can amend it once you approve it. You can do all kinds of things once you approve it, but the first step that you have to take and the game that we have to play is to approve it. And then you can amend it. And then the second thing is make sure that when we get our audit, and fortunately we have American Rescue Plan to help us with audit issues, but when you get your audit, that your audit says that your expenditures are less than your revenues. And so as long as your revenues are higher than your expenditures, they can't say anything. And we can continue our drive to build. And so that's what we're hoping to achieve. Now, when you talk about internal services, you look at American Rescue Plan, yes, we need a grant writer. And I would love to be able to go out there because that's free money. That pays for itself. Yes, we need some assistance in the income tax office so that we can go after enforcement, because there's people that are doing work in Muskegon Heights that aren't paying their fair share of income tax. We've got a new business program, business license program that's coming online. That's going to allow us to get all those businesses that are doing work in Muskegon Heights that aren't paying for a business license. That's lost revenue. We've got Maynard Casterison that is cleaning up the books for our finance department so that we can be able to recruit people at a reasonable rate to come into Muskegon Heights knowing that our books are clean, that we've got a clear slate, and that there's a seal of approval that comes from the Treasury office and from a CPA firm that says that everything is good going forward. I mean, that's huge for us. We talk about capacity. American Rescue Plan can improve organizational capacity. I didn't mention that we are going away from paper in Muskegon Heights. Every desk in Muskegon Heights has a scanner on it. And we are now beginning to scan in all of our paperwork as attachments instead of having stacks and stacks of paperwork. If you go to the water billing office now and you look at through the window at the space behind it, that used to be stacks and stacks of paper, that stuff is disappearing. It's clean, it's clear. This is all part of organizational capacity. And so I did not talk about in my report that we're moving towards a paperless environment where everything is scanned in. And we, over the last 6 months, have implemented this, put the scanners on everybody's desk, created the programming necessary in order to connect the scanner into the system so we can attach things as opposed to keeping papers in files. That information is automatically backed up down at dispatch in 3 different locations. We're good. But we would never get there if we didn't have organizational capacity. And slowly we're clawing our way with little money, grant here, grant there. We're clawing our way to that. We have a grant writer. We can go after that big and large and fast and quick. So that's what I'm excited about as far as the future, organizational capacity, bringing new programs online, upgrading BSNA, our financial software, creating an asset management system, acquiring a workforce management system. So when you see things that are wrong, like the roads or lights that are out or infrastructure where people are leaving things out on the curb that need to be picked up, you can go online real quick and say, this needs to be addressed, and a workforce management system, which by the grace of God should come online in the spring, will allow us to be able to record that, to communicate to you what the results are and get it addressed. These are aspects of the capacity of our organization that are important. And when you have little staff like we have, and we have to realize that we're operating on 1/3 of the staff that we need. When we have that, technology is going to make the difference. And that's one-time purchases that are part of organizational capacity. So all that said, thank you so much to everybody. I know I'm running a little bit long. I'm glad that I was able to do this remotely on my day off from the location I'm at. But I really appreciate everybody that chimed in. And, Miss Bird, Miss Aubrey, Donna Musselman, Miss Bird again, Don Williams, Miss Jennifer Ross, everybody that chimed in. One thing I want to catch, though, Miss Aubrey said the need to do in beginning the process of getting the debt forgiven. So one last thing I'll leave you as you go out. A lot of folks asked about the school district, and some people might believe that that's not the city's business or the city's issue. I say you're wrong, because as the school district goes, the city goes. The debt that is suffocating our school district is also suffocating economic development in our city. We need to figure out a way to forgive the debt. And in order for us to do that, that debt is $43.7 million. We have to get on the same page. All of us have to be talking about the debt. And yes, teachers for our students are important, but I know that we won't be able to get teachers if we have the debt that's looming out there. I know that we won't be able to solve the issues that are swirling around our school district as long as the debt is suffocating our school district. So we need to all, regardless of our differences to how we need to do this or do that, we can agree that $43.7 million has to go away. And we have a governor, we have a House, we have a Senate, we have an opportunity for that $43.7 million to be forgiven. If they want to see Muskegon Heights School District saved, if they want to see Muskegon Heights City, we're clawing and scratching at the city. But by golly, if we could get rid of that $43.7 million, economic development would take off in this community. We're getting it slowly and surely, not as fast as I would like it. But you get rid of that 43.7 and we're moving. So we have to come together with a common voice about that. Our council, the school board, our mayor, they're already talking about it. Our county commission. So we need to talk to our county commission and say, this needs to be the prominent issue about getting rid of the debt in the city of Muskegon Heights. If the county commission cares about the success of Muskegon Heights, that'll be part of their agenda. How do we get rid of the debt? I know the Community Foundation, Todd Jacobs, is already pulling people together about getting rid of the school debt. The only thing that we need to come alongside of that conversation about getting rid of the school debt is a plan for what we are going to do once that debt goes away. So I can already say I'd like to see a half of that be spent on doing the roads. That 25 mils, you take half of that and we can start doing the roads. Right now, we only have 4 mils, and that's, if we're lucky, $400,000. If we're lucky, $465,000. And that will get us, less than half a mile of road work done. If we had that half of that 25 mils that we could use on road work, where would we be about fixing the roads? So we have to have a plan, whether it's that or something else, and I would love for our school district to be able to get rid of that debt and then have its own destiny in its own hands to say we want to be a charter or we don't want to be a charter. But that's never going to be an issue, at least based on what the governor has said thus far, unless we get rid of the debt. So self-determination should be part of that plan. Getting our streets paved should be part of that plan. Bringing in good teachers and programming should be part of that plan. So I would love the opportunity to communicate with, if invited to speak with the school districts. Haven't been a school superintendent in my long past days, a few years back. I know a few things, and I'd love to be part of that conversation. So thanks for bringing that to our attention, Miss Aubrey. And I think that wraps it up. So thank you so much for tuning in to Reaching New Heights. And we are about reaching new heights, where you get to know what you need to know so you'll be in the know on 103.7 The Beat. And continue, please, to be blessed. Have a great day.